Power dies the moment it becomes common. The world does not respect the man who is always there. It consumes him and throws him aside. Machiavelli understood a brutal truth. What is common is cheap. What is rare is feared. Gold has value because it is scarce. So does power. The kings of old did not sit among the crowd. They appeared rarely, like an eclipse, forcing people to wait, wonder, and tremble. The less you reveal, the more they imagine. And imagination is always more dangerous than reality. Scarcity isn't weakness. It's strategy. When you limit access to yourself, you create hunger. When you withdraw, people chase you. When you control your presence, your absence becomes a weapon. Stop trying to be liked. Stop making yourself easy to reach. Machiavelli's formula is simple. Appear less, demand more, and watch the world treat you like a prize instead of a pawn. If you are always available, you are worth nothing. If you are scarce, you are untouchable. And that is when people begin to fear losing you. Scarcity does more than protect your value. When mastered, it creates an aura, an invisible force that makes people tread carefully around you, fear losing your favor, and interpret every move you make as intentional and meaningful. You stop being just a person, you become a presence. This aura is dangerous because it changes how people behave. When they cannot easily reach you, they stop taking you for granted. When they can't predict you, they obsess over you. When they can't control you, they begin to respect, even fear you. This aura is not mystical. It's practical psychology. Machiavelli saw it in Renaissance courts. The ruler who limited his appearances became the axis around which all intrigue revolved. Nobles whispered, speculated, competed for proximity. The prince barely had to lift a finger. His scarcity did the work for him. You can build the same aura today. It requires discipline, not arrogance. Never explain why you're unavailable. Never justify your silence. Let people wonder. Let them talk. Let them chase. If they're unsure where they stand with you, they will try to earn your favor. But remember, this aura is dangerous not only to others, but to you. The power it brings can tempt you into complacency. You may start to believe your own myth, to think that your scarcity alone makes you untouchable. Machiavelli warned against this. Power built on perception still requires real strength to back it up. If you're scarce but weak, people will eventually see through you. If you're scarce and strong, your legend becomes unshakable. The ultimate goal is balance. Be visible enough to remind people you exist, but rare enough that they crave your presence. Be approachable enough to avoid hatred, but distant enough to avoid contempt. This tension, not too close, not too far, is where true authority lives. Those who master scarcity don't just hold power, they radiate it. They walk into a room and everyone feels it because everyone has been waiting. Their absence has already spoken louder than their words. Their presence seals the impression. Important, untouchable, dangerous to cross. This is the Machiavellian art of scarcity. Done right, it makes you more than respected. It makes you feared. And more importantly, it makes you needed. Human beings are irrational when it comes to value. We rarely judge something for what it truly is. We judge it by how hard it is to get. Machiavelli understood this flaw in human nature and turned it into a weapon. His words were clear. Men esteem lightly what is easily acquired. If you want to raise your worth in the eyes of others, you must first make yourself rare. Why do people worship gold? It's not because gold is magically useful. Most of its uses were discovered long after it became precious. They worship it because it is scarce. Apply the same principle to yourself. When you are everywhere, in everyone's reach, your value collapses. When you limit yourself, when you ration your presence like a king who opens his gates only for the worthy, people suddenly see you as priceless. Scarcity creates tension. When people can't have you on demand, they wonder what you're doing, who you're meeting, what plans you're hiding. Their imagination magnifies your power. The less they see, the more they assume. A ruler who hides his movements seems omnipotent. A man who doesn't answer every call seems busy, important, untouchable. Modern life teaches the opposite. To be constantly connected, constantly responsive, constantly available. But constant availability makes you predictable, and predictability is death to power. When people can map your every move, they stop fearing you. They stop valuing you. You become like water flowing through open streets, useful, but ordinary. Machiavelli studied princes and tyrants who used absence as a weapon. They would disappear from court for weeks, making nobles nervous. They would delay their decisions, making their subjects beg for action. They would restrict access so tightly that every audience with them became a rare privilege. Even those who hated them feared being excluded. Scarcity breeds desire, yes. But more importantly, it breeds dependence. Consider your own life. The colleague who's always free for lunch is overlooked. The friend who always says yes is taken for granted. The lover who is constantly available loses their allure. Human nature is cruel. We do not respect what we can easily have. But when something, or someone, is hard to obtain, we instinctively assume it must be valuable. This is the psychology of scarcity. It works because people are wired to chase what retreats and ignore what approaches. Show them everything, and they'll grow bored. Hide yourself, and they'll stay awake at night, trying to figure you out. Machiavelli's first lesson is simple but merciless. To seem powerful, you must become scarce. Not by vanishing entirely, but by appearing on your own terms, at your chosen time, like a sovereign entering his throne room. If people expect you to always answer, you're a servant. If they wait for your word, you're a master. Scarcity is not passive. It is not weakness. It's a deliberate strategy. A controlled silence that forces the world to make the first move. When you do speak, every word carries weight. When you do appear, every glance feels meaningful. This is how leaders, warriors, and cunning men throughout history have made themselves larger than life, by refusing to be common. Scarcity is not an accident. It is a weapon, one you must wield deliberately. Machiavelli's brilliance lay in turning human weakness into strategy. He understood that if people instinctively value what is rare, then you must control your presence like a miser controls his gold. This isn't about hiding. It's about appearing on your own terms so that every appearance carries weight. Here is Machiavelli's formula for weaponizing scarcity. Step 1. Withdraw from the crowd deliberately. Stop being constantly visible, constantly reachable. Don't attend every event, answer every call, or respond to every request. Distance makes people curious. Your silence forces them to wonder what you're doing, who you're meeting, and why you no longer need them. That uncertainty builds power. Step 2. Control access to yourself. A king doesn't open his gates for everyone, neither should you. Decide carefully who can reach you, and make it clear, even without words, that your time is not free. When access is limited, people treat it like a privilege. They will approach you with caution, respect, even fear, because they know you can shut the door. Step 3. Appear selectively and with purpose. When you do step back into view, do it at moments that benefit you. Make your presence feel intentional, not accidental. If you are scarce, even a small gesture, a single meeting, a single comment, will carry the weight of a command. People will hang on every word because they don't hear from you often. Step 4. Turn absence into intrigue, not neglect. Scarcity is not vanishing completely. If you disappear too long, people may forget you. The goal is to give just enough to maintain attention, but not enough to satisfy it. This keeps people hungry, guessing, and off balance. When they miss you, they value you more. When they wonder about you, they respect you more. Step 5. Use scarcity to shape perception. By rationing your presence, you control how others see you. If you are always around, they see your flaws. If you are rarely around, they only see the image you choose to show. You can project confidence, authority, even fear. And they will believe it, because they have no evidence to contradict it. Machiavelli saw this principle at work in Renaissance courts, where rulers made themselves scarce to project power. They appeared only when decisions had to be made, and only on their own terms. This forced nobles and ambassadors to wait, sometimes for weeks, just to be granted a single audience. That delay alone communicated dominance. I decide when you see me, not you. You can apply the same formula today. In business, be the person whose time is valuable. In relationships, be the person who is pursued, not the one doing the chasing. In every arena, let your absence speak louder than your words. Scarcity shifts power toward you because it makes others play your game. They have to adjust to your schedule, your availability, your rules. They must compete for your attention instead of you competing for theirs. And when they finally do meet you, your presence feels important because you've trained them to believe it is. Machiavelli's formula is ruthless but simple. Appear less. Demand more. Make them wait. Make them wonder. Make them work. Do this consistently, and you will transform your value in the eyes of everyone around you. Scarcity alone makes you valuable, but to turn that value into real power, you must use it to make people move toward you. The powerful do not pursue, they attract. Machiavelli knew that a prince who chases his subjects loses authority, but a prince who forces his subjects to chase him becomes a ruler in truth as well as name. So how do you make people pursue you willingly, even desperately? 1. Use delay as a weapon. When someone wants your time, don't give it immediately. Make them wait. Delay doesn't weaken you. It weakens them. When people are forced to wait, they begin to wonder if they've lost your favor. That uncertainty eats at them. They chase harder to restore balance. 2. Create controlled unpredictability. If you're always predictable, you're easy to dismiss. If people can never quite pin you down, when you're available, when you're not, what you'll say, how you'll react, they'll pay closer attention. Controlled unpredictability keeps people on edge, afraid of losing you or displeasing you. 3. Reward selectively. When you finally grant access, make it feel earned. Acknowledge those who wait patiently or prove themselves useful. If you reward everyone equally, your favor becomes worthless. If you reward only a few, the rest will fight for your attention, hoping to be next. 4. Use silence to create hunger. You don't always have to respond. You don't always have to explain. A lack of words can say more than a flood of them. When you refuse to react immediately, people begin to project their own fears and desires onto you. They imagine what you're thinking, what you might do, and they chase your approval to make sure it's not anger. 5. Appear powerful when you do appear. If you've been scarce, every appearance matters. Don't squander it on meaningless gestures. Speak decisively. Act with purpose. People will magnify your every word because they rarely hear from you. When you do give attention, give it in a way that feels deliberate, almost like a favor. This makes your presence addictive. Machiavelli understood that people are slaves to their own uncertainty. When they are unsure of where they stand with you, they move closer. When they're not sure if they've pleased you, they work harder to do so. When they fear they've lost you, they come running. This is why you must never chase. The moment you pursue, you reverse the power dynamic. You signal that you need them more than they need you, and they will treat you accordingly. Look at rulers, CEOs, generals, anyone who commands loyalty. They never hand out their time freely. Their attention is rationed. Their approval is measured. Their disapproval is silent but terrifying. People go to extreme lengths just to remain in their good graces. You can do the same in your own life. In business, don't sell yourself. Make others prove they deserve your partnership. In relationships, don't plead for affection. Let others fight for your presence. In every interaction, project this truth. Your time is scarce, your attention is precious, and your favor is earned, not given. When people chase you, they invest in you. And the more they invest, the more they fear losing you. This is Machiavelli's deeper lesson. Scarcity doesn't just raise your value, it binds people to you. They will protect you, obey you, even worship you, because they cannot bear the thought of your absence. If scarcity makes you powerful, then constant availability makes you weak. Nothing erodes authority faster than being easy to reach, easy to predict, easy to use. Machiavelli observed this in courts and palaces long before the modern world. Familiarity breeds contempt. The more people see you, the less they fear you. The more they can reach you, the less they respect you. Availability breeds equality, and equality is poison to power. A prince who mingles too freely with his subjects ceases to feel like a prince. A commander who spends too much time with his soldiers is treated as a friend rather than a leader. A man who always picks up the phone trains others to believe his time belongs to them. You become part of their routine, not an authority figure, not an enigma, just another piece of furniture. Look at how rulers once behaved. They lived behind walls. Their appearances were staged, deliberate, and rare. Those who wished to speak to them had to beg for an audience, sometimes waiting weeks. This was not arrogance, it was strategy. By limiting access, they inflated their own value. People respected what they couldn't casually approach. Contrast this with the man who is always present. When someone is constantly around, his words carry no weight, his absence is not felt, and his return brings no excitement. He becomes background noise. Even his generosity loses value because it is expected, not earned. When you make yourself too available, you invite exploitation. People will take your time, your energy, your loyalty, and they will give nothing back because you have taught them to believe your supply is endless. Worse, constant availability exposes your weaknesses. If people see you too often, they start to notice cracks in your armor, your mistakes, your doubts, your humanity. Mystique vanishes. What was once impressive becomes ordinary, even disappointing. Machiavelli knew that power depends on perception, not just reality. A leader who appears sparingly controls his image. A leader who is always present loses control of how others see him. This law applies far beyond politics. In business, the entrepreneur who attends every meeting is treated like an employee. The executive who answers every email instantly is assumed to have nothing better to do. In relationships, The man who is endlessly available is quickly taken for granted, while the one who is hard to reach is instinctively pursued. The same principle governs all human interactions. What is abundant is ignored. What is rare is pursued. When you give unlimited access to yourself, you become cheap, no matter how skilled, intelligent, or resourceful you are. You might believe you are building loyalty by being constantly present, but in reality, you are training others to see you as replaceable. Machiavelli's wisdom was ruthless because it was true. He advised princes to control not just their actions, but their visibility. By appearing rarely, they seemed busier, more important, more dangerous. By withholding themselves, they created a vacuum, and power always flows toward a vacuum. People feared being left out. They fought for favor. They treated every appearance, every decision, as precious. If you wish to hold power in any arena, your career, your social circle, your personal life, you must learn to resist the urge to always be present, to always answer, to always show up. Availability may feel like strength, but it silently kills authority. It erases your mystique and gives others control over your time, your energy, and ultimately, your value. The solution is not arrogance, it's discipline. Appear less, speak less, offer less. Make your presence something people notice, not something they expect. When you vanish, they should feel it like oxygen leaving the room. When you return, it should feel like a privilege. Power has two forms, the kind people can measure and the kind they can only feel. Scarcity builds the second kind. It's not about what you own, what you say, or even what you do. It's about what people believe you could do, but don't. When you deliberately limit your presence, people start to imagine hidden depths. They assume you're busy with greater plans, talking to more important allies, plotting moves they can't see. Their fear of being left out does more for your reputation than any speech or display of strength ever could. This is where scarcity becomes truly dangerous. It turns speculation into loyalty and anxiety into obedience. People chase not because you command them, but because they can't stand not knowing where you stand. 1. Scarcity makes your silence deafening. When you rarely speak, every word lands with weight. A short comment feels like a decree. A pause feels like a test. People lean in, analyzing your tone, your expression, your choice of timing. They imagine depths and strategies where there may be none, and this works in your favor. 2. Scarcity magnifies your presence. When you do appear, the contrast hits hard. Your arrival feels like an event. Your approval feels like a gift. People notice your gestures because they are rare, and rarity is power. A king doesn't walk the streets daily. When he appears on the balcony, the crowd gathers. 3. Scarcity makes others guard your reputation for you. Those who wait for your attention will defend you fiercely. They want to prove they deserve your favor, so they silence critics on your behalf. They become invested in protecting your image because they see their access to you as a reflection of their own status. 4. Scarcity turns absence into pressure. When you're not always available, people begin to wonder where you are, who you're meeting, what you're planning. Their minds fill in the blanks, usually with exaggerated strength. They assume you have better options. They fear being replaced. This fear drives them to chase you harder and obey you more readily. Power never comes from chasing people. It comes from making people chase you. Scarcity isn't just a tactic. It's an identity. The moment you stop throwing yourself at every opportunity, every person, every request, your value rises. When your presence is controlled, your time disciplined, your words measured, people stop taking you for granted. They notice when you speak, they notice when you disappear, and they notice when you choose to return. Scarcity makes others depend on you. When they need you more than you need them, the entire balance shifts. You no longer have to prove yourself. They start proving themselves to you. You no longer run after power. Power runs after you. True scarcity does more than protect your value. It creates an aura. People start imagining you as larger than life. They wonder what you're planning when you're silent. They fear losing your favor when you're distant. They interpret every gesture as deliberate, every word as a calculated move. In their minds, you stop being just a person. You become a presence. This presence is dangerous. Your silence becomes deafening. Your absence feels heavy. Your approval becomes rare, and therefore priceless. People begin to guard your reputation for you, defend your name in rooms you're not even in, not out of loyalty, but out of fear of losing access. But don't be fooled. This isn't magic. It's discipline. Anyone can flood the world with their attention. Few can hold it back. Scarcity demands restraint, resisting the urge to over-explain, to overgive, to over-appear. The weak beg to be seen. The strong force the world to notice their absence. And yes, scarcity has a cost. You must be strong enough to back it up. If you're scarce but empty, people will eventually see through you. But if you're scarce and strong, if your skills, your influence, your resources are real, then your legend grows every time you say nothing. This is Machiavelli's formula. It isn't polite, it isn't fair, but it works in courts, in corporations, in